And we have just established a quorum with, the 5 needed members, so we can go ahead and declare the meeting open. Quorum being established.
Chair Bartlett, if you could acknowledge which commissioners are in attendance for the record.
Yes, we have myself. We have Nomi Trapnell. We have Larry Lang.
Hello.
We have David Moore. And did I mention Margot Horn? There she is, right there.
Thank you.
And there's Nomi's picture. Finally, we have him. To the members of the public and staff that have been off the video for a few moments. We've just been waiting for enough people to establish quorum. So, okay, we have done that. We've established the quorum. So going by our commission, outline here, we ask for public comments for items on the agenda. And at least one member of the public, that being Gary Hedden, our friend, we open for any comments on that topic, any items not on the agenda.
Am I on the bit?
Gary, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me put my hand down. I'd like to, as a president of the Los Altos History Museum, I'd like to let you know that we have a new exhibit coming up. It'll open February 17th. It's called Every Wrinkle Tells a Story. It will feature a couple dozen of the senior citizens in our town and tell their stories. We'll see their pictures on posters and can read the text. I think it's going to be really a lot of fun to see what's going on with and some of the stories that they have to share. So please make a point of coming to join us for that. I'm not aware of any opening events to kick it off. This is COVID times, so things have been a little disrupted from that. But just to let you know, thank you.
Gary, I see you moved your event, the Roaring Twenties.
The gala, big gala event, Dancing Through the Decades, was scheduled for February 5th. Because of COVID, we moved it. And now it is April 2nd. So still, that's a Saturday, still at 5:30. And we welcome you to attend that. It's a big fundraising event for us, of course, and there'll be a tent, there'll be dancing and music, an auctioneer, and good food, a lot of caterers who are bringing food for our pleasure, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there as well, April 2nd. Thank you, Nomi.
Sounds like a really good event. I'm looking forward to joining the fun and maybe doing a little Charleston dancing while we're at it.
Yeah,
great.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
and wear a costume. I don't have one yet, but I'll work on it.
An Art Deco costume.
You need a hat.
Something from the 20s.
Yes.
You need a hat.
You need a hat. Okay.
You have to have a
Thank
hat.
you, everybody.
Okay. Any more comments from our public for items not on the agenda?
I'm sorry, I froze up for a second. What are some of the auctions items that going to be on the 2nd of April?
I don't have the auction items in front of me, but
Oh,
there will be an auction.
Okay.
Okay. Any further public comments? Hearing none, we'll go on for the agenda. Item 1 is the nomination of the next chair and vice chair. This is the month where we roll over chair and vice chair duties. So I don't know if we go by a nomination or a sort of a seniority process.
Chair
Sean?
Bartlett, yeah, if I could give a quick explanation for and the explanation of the terms for the position. So in speaking with the city clerk, we realized that both the Design Review Commission, the Historical Commission, and the Environmental Commission are out of sync with the expected end date of the terms. So the term for this chairperson position will run from today, whoever is elected for chair and vice chair, and then it will terminate at the first meeting in October. And then at the first meeting in October will be an election for a new chair and vice chair. And then every year at the first meeting of October, we will have elections every October. And that'll get us back into alignment with the city clerks and the commission handbook, which does stipulate this.
So does it make sense to have an election now, or should we just wait till September?
So, so you can, there is no limitation on the number of terms that a person can hold as chair or vice chair. So you would have an election tonight, and you could, if you'd like, reappoint Chair Bartlett as a chair, or the same vice chair you would have, or you can elect different chairs, but their terms would end in October, and then they would start up and be an annual one-year term after that.
Okay.
I think he's doing a great job. Is the floor open for nominations?
Yes, it's open for nominations.
Is he
Okay,
willing to continue?
I would actually like to nominate my friend Commissioner David Moore.
okay.
I second.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Commissioner Moore and a second for that nomination for Chairman of the Commission. Do we have nominations for Vice Chair?
I nominate Margot Horn.
Margot Horn, and I second. Any objections? Any yays, nays?
Chair Bartlett, we
Yes.
would need to do a roll call vote on each of those.
Okay. So for myself, I will vote ayes for the nominations of Margot and for David Moore.
Larry Lang here. I'll also vote yes on both excellent nominations.
No me trap now. I vote yes on both.
Kirk Page, I vote yes on both.
David Moore, I vote okay. Okay, and then very yes on Margot.
So I
Thank you
vote
very
yes. I vote yes on David, and I'm willing to serve.
Thank you very much. So moved and seconded and roll call achieved. So I will pick up my virtual gavel and herewith hand the chairmanship duties over to my friend Commissioner Moore.
All right. The revolution will start now. All
Lay
right.
down
Grab
the
your-
law.
Grab your tarps and head for a roof.
Yeah, right. Everybody get ready. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the commission minutes from the previous meeting. I would entertain any kind of corrections or amendments to the minutes.
I have one. Item 2, the date of the last meeting was actually November 22nd, 2022. Or 2021, I'm sorry. It's already been. Already. Yeah, the copy of the meeting minutes that I have, that is blank.
Okay.
Like a cut and paste error, but that's all.
Okay, any further corrections? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Moore, was there a first and a second to approve the minutes?
Does it need one?
Yes.
Okay, then I would, if we can return, I'm sorry, I would like someone to move the minutes as amended.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
So the certified local government annual report. We've reviewed this.
So this is, hi, good evening, Chair Moore and other commissioners. This is Jia Liu, Associate Planner. Staff INS prepared this city's 2020 to 2021 Certified Local Government Annual Report, and the actual report is attached to the agenda report for your review. So staff is here. If you have any questions or comments, staff is here for to provide the corresponding information. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? All right. Would someone then move the annual report?
I so move.
Can I get a second?
I will second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. All right, we turn our attention to the 347 First Street, the American Legion Hall. And we are to consider a request to forward this with our recommendation to City Council to recommend this being preserved as a historical landmark. All right.
Okay, everybody disappeared. 1 second. Okay, good evening, Chair Moore. My name is, again, Sean Gallego, Senior Planner with the Planning Division. The item before you tonight is a recommendation for the Historical Commission to recommend to the City Council to designate 347 First Street, the American Legion Hall, as a historic landmark. Before you are photographs of the building. It's a 3,920 square foot single-story building. It is a community recreational building known as the American Legion Hall, Post 558. It occupies a nearly 7,000 square foot lot and is set back about 20 feet from the street frontage. The building sits on a rectangular shaped lot with primary frontage along First Street. Prior to the hall's construction, the site was originally part of the Sarah L. Winchester ranch land and then owned by Paul Shoup and the Altos Land Company. The application to charter the American Legion Post 558 occurred back in March 11th, 1938. The property was purchased in 1940, and the construction began immediately by World War I Legionnaires. The building was occupied in 1941 with the rear addition occurring in 1948. At the time of the construction of the American Legion Hall, the neighborhood was mostly rural with some mature landscaping and plantings, but it was in the downtown core, the initial creation of the downtown core. The building architecture is considered a minimal traditional architectural style. It's associated with either having a gable or front gable roof form with 1 story. It's a very simple design. The design, as indicated in the historic resource evaluation, was a response to the Great Depression and World War II to satisfy the needs for immediate housing, and the small houses were developed in response. The city of Los Altos does have criteria for designation. As the commission is aware, it does require that a structure under Part A be at least 50 years old, that there be a determination of integrity, that the structure retain sufficient historic integrity in most areas. For us, that includes, for the city of Los Altos, its design, setting, materials, workmanship, and feeling. And then also, the structure should be clearly associated with one or more historical significant areas, and that's either under events, persons or people, architecture, design, or archaeology. In regards to age, as commissioners are aware, the building was built prior to 1948, making it at least 80 years old, meeting the 50-year age criteria. In regards to integrity, we're looking at integrity in more of the expanded National Register criteria, which does encompass the local criteria for integrity. The site has preserved the overall integrity of the setting. Although the minimal traditional style design has been altered due to replacing the original materials, including doors with commercial aluminum doors, replacing some of the original double hung windows, the overall form and interior layout, structure, and the features of the minimal traditional style have been preserved, and it does retain integrity of the original workmanship of design and materials. The hall continues to embody the feeling of a minimal traditional architectural style, and it is representative of the style from the 1935 to 1955 era. The minimal alterations over time have not diminished its origins of that architectural style, and it continues to embody the property's association or feeling with early 20th century development in Los Altos. The hall served as a space for community meetings that led to the incorporation of the city of Los Altos. Overall, the historical firm Garavaglia Architecture found that the structure continues to serve the community and is associated with the history of Los Altos, and it continues to retain 6 out of the 7 aspects of integrity, and as such, it retains sufficient integrity to remain eligible under the local criteria of integrity. In regards to significance, the building at 347 First Street, was again constructed in 1940, was dedicated in 41. During a period when Los Altos was an unincorporated city. At this time, there was a central business district near the intersections of Foothill and Main Street. However, with the creation of the Legion Post, it became a central meeting area for all the town's, political, civic, and social activities. And due to the use of the American Legion Hall, it became a central use for the incorporation of the city into the county in 1952. The American Legion Hall is, as determined by the Garavaglia Architecture, most closely associated with the area's transition from an incorporated town to becoming an incorporated city, and it's tied to the broad patterns of development of Los Altos and Santa Clara County. The American Legion Hall, again, was associated with a single significant event or pattern of events that have made a significant contribution to the patterns of local or regional history and our cultural heritage of California and the United States. In regards to local landmark designation, to be eligible for designation, you have to meet the 3 criteria. You have to be 50 years old, you have to show integrity, and you have to show historical significance. As outlined in the historical report from Garavaglia and the DPR forms that are attached to the report, the city does believe, or staff does believe, it meets the integrity and historical significance and age criteria of 12.44040 of the municipal code. The American Legion Hall, in order to qualify as a landmark, must also have been found to have held special historical, cultural, archaeological, scientific, architectural, aesthetic interest or value as part of the heritage of the city or the county or the nation. The historians did find that it did have a special historical value to Los Altos. The building became the meeting place for all of the town's political, civic, and social events and was instrumental in the establishment of the city and the founding of the city. For a period of time, it was the de facto city hall or town hall. And it was associated with the transition of the city from an unincorporated town to becoming Los Altos City in December 1st, 1952. And so the building is found to be associated with significant contributions to the heritage and to the history of the city of Los Altos. Therefore, the historian did find that 347 First does display a level of significance or integrity that would qualify for designation as a local City of Los Altos landmark at the local level. In addition, under the National Register of Historic Places and the California Register of Historic Resources, due to the building meeting the 50-year requirement and qualifying for historical integrity, it does also qualify under criteria A1 for its association with patterns of development of events and repeated activities due to its relationship with the founding of the city of Los Altos. However, research did not find the site qualified under criteria B2 for individuals or design and construction or informational potential. However, the structure does qualify for designation of the National Register or the California Register, in addition to qualifying for designation as a local historical landmark. This concludes staff's presentation. Unless there are any questions, thank you.
I have a question. Why in the beginning did you say it didn't have integrity of, I forgot what you called it, not location, but site? It's been in the same site all its life.
For the ditch, I wanted to make sure you didn't.
Do you know where his collar is?
What was your question, Nomi, in regards?
Okay, in one of the early charts, I don't know if it was one or two, there was something said it did not have integrity of
setting, I think.
Setting. And why is that, since it's been in the same setting all its life?
So when we're looking at setting, when it comes to historical property, we're looking at the original setting where it was founded. So it was more of a rural setting in the 1940s when it was built. And the overall setting, even though it's still in the similar location and a similar orientation, the overall surrounding context has changed from a rural setting to more of an urban setting. And so although the setting, the orientation and location hasn't changed, the overall setting has diminished and degraded over time. And so usually then and this is very common for most of our historical properties, you don't have to qualify for all of them, all 7 of the elements of integrity. You have to qualify for the majority of them. And most of the time when it comes to historic properties in our city, most of the time the setting has degraded because, you know, in our city, it's very common for historic homes to be part of larger orchards or to be part of a larger rural setting. And over time, over the last 80 years, the lots have filled in and they've been developed, and now it's an urban setting. But it does have an association or feeling that's tied to early 20th century. And so it does have that feeling that evokes a sense of a certain period of time. And so they're a little different, but similar in some ways. Hopefully that helps.
So I have a question, which is, how well has it been maintained and preserved and kept up?
Well, we have the applicants here, and they could probably speak to that. But yeah, I mean, there are concerns with the applicant in regards to the condition of the building. There have been, you know, if we look at the qualifying factors for its designation, it did not qualify under architecture. The building had been significantly modified over time with a series of additions. Nearly all of the windows have been replaced. A lot of the siding has been modified. So there have been a significant degradation in regards to the overall material and the architecture of the building over time. It is not also probably the best example of the type of architecture for this style, but it does qualify under events instead of more of architecture. And the applicants are here, and they could talk about the condition of their building, which it has been impacted, and I think this was part of their objective of pursuing historic designation is that it may provide opportunities for additional grant funding so that they could improve and rehabilitate the structure.
And another question, are there other examples of that minimal style that evokes the mid-20th century, that period of time in Los Altos history?
No, not conveyed by the historian, no. No.
Okay, so this would make a unique contribution in that sense. Okay.
It could make a unique contribution if the quality and integrity of the architecture had been maintained over time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Sean, I'm still kind of learning about all this stuff on this committee. So I know what the implications are for an individual home, are tax related. I think you kind of touched on this, but I'm wondering, what are the advantages for the post for the folks there to have this designated a landmark? And you said they're more eligible for grants. Are there other?
Mills Act. Yes.
I'm
Sean?
muted. Sorry about that. So one of the advantages, and I think one of the concerns, and I think the applicants speak to this more specifically, is a concern of kind of a push to develop this land at some point, and having it designated as historic landmark would constrain the ability to redevelop this property into another use. A property being designated historic landmark will result in constraining development potential at the site. The potential of a demolition of a historic property would require an evaluation under the California Environmental Quality Act. The demolition of a historic building would require an environmental impact report, and any potential demolition of this building after it's deemed a historic landmark or even a historic resource would require a statement of overriding consideration from council authorizing the demolition of a historic resource or landmark. So I think American Legion staff and representatives probably speak to why they want to pursue the landmark status. They do feel, I believe, that they're under tremendous pressure with development occurring on all sides of their building, and this may allow them to preserve the building and then allow them and open up their post to pursue funding for improvement to the overall building.
Would they be eligible for Mills Act later?
I would have to look into that. I mean, I believe that commercial buildings do qualify for Mills Act. We've just not ever used it for a commercial building. But I don't know what the tax effect for a Legion Hall, like whether they are taxed at the same rate. We can always investigate that and get back to the commission if that's something the Legion would like to pursue if they are designated.
That's not today, right? Like they're not.
No.
This is a first step that might or might not lead to Mills Act consideration.
Yeah, it's later, you know.
I'm sorry, I have another dumb question. Does this mean that we or are sort of taking some sort of responsibility for that building? Like if it's found to have, I don't know, just be littered with asbestos or something. Does that mean that the city now has a financial obligation?
No. I mean, the city has no obligation. In fact, the municipal code under the historic preservation regulations does grant the chief building official the authority to require historic buildings to be kept in good condition. I think many of the commissioners, we've talked about this over the years. Although it's not been enforced, it doesn't, the commission or the council adopting a historic landmark status on the building does not place any responsibility on the city to maintain this building. It will actually more, if we enforced it, require the applicant to maintain the condition of their building over time.
Yeah. So I have sort of a question. in the expectation we'll be hearing from the applicants soon, right? Which is, I guess the question ultimately to them would be, are they familiar with all the drama around the Halsey House? And are they aware that once you go through this door, it's really, really hard to come back? And so you're kind of handcuffing whatever institution owns this building, this property, to a much higher standard going forward, and eliminating some flexibility that you conceivably might want to have 10 years from now, if the lesson from the Halsey House. So that's less a question for you, Sean, more just to make sure that that's what I'm interested in hearing about from the applicants.
Well, I would say this when it comes to historic designation, because we have this common question at City Hall with members of the public who are looking to buy historic property, of the potential constraints of owning a historic property. Owning a historic property does come with some constraints, and some of those constraints include, if you're doing additions or modifications to a structure, it requires you to comply with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. Now, the Secretary of the Interior standards is intended to allow for buildings to evolve and to change and to adapt to changing circumstances in our world, and not to require a building to be locked in time into a period of time that maybe doesn't functionally work in a future time period. So although it's historic, there is tremendous potential for a historic building to have additions, to have improvements to it, as long as they maintain the overall building form and architectural features and materials that make it unique and historic. So I say this because a lot of members of the public get very concerned about having historic properties, and although there are constraints in regards to demolition, there are opportunities for improvement, and it hopefully wouldn't dissuade someone from pursuing a historic designation.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I worked at a church that was thinking about it, and they would have constrained what we could have done with the property. So we eventually said we couldn't afford to do that. So I'm glad to hear that's a flexible. All right. Are there any further questions before we open it up to comments from the public, or actually interested parties, I guess? All right. I can't tell who's raising their hand, but I imagine that there's some people here who would like to speak to this.
Chair Moore, we do have Cindy Newman and a series of representatives from the Post, the American Legion Hall Post. They are typically provided a maximum of 10 minutes to speak. Could they?
Okay. Yeah, we'd love to hear from them. William, we can't hear you. Is his mute on? I can't, it doesn't look like his mute's on.
I do not think it's. Mr. Bassett or Ken Newman or Miss Newman, did you wish to speak tonight?
I think Mr. Bassett is trying to speak. However, he may have the volume on his device, whatever he's using, turned down too much, and therefore we can't hear him.
Oh, nuts.
Sean, I was gonna, yeah, let Bill go first if you want to, I don't know, give him a few seconds here to try and.
No, we'd love to hear from him. I just can't. Nuts.
Mr. Bassett, you might be able to dial in with your iPhone or your phone, because there is a number, I think, provided. Maybe we should have somebody else speak while he's looking for his phone.
Yeah, do you want me to go ahead, Sean?
Yes, please, if you'd like.
Okay. My name's Ken Newman. I am a 40-year member of the Legion Post. However, being a third-generation member, my parents first brought me to the Legion Hall before I could even walk. My grandparents moved from Amarillo, Texas to Los Altos, and I'm thinking around 1941, 1942, and became active members during the early years. They were there during when the founders of the city were having their meetings at the Legion Hall. And my grandfather actually ran for city council on the same ballot when they voted to incorporate the city. The yes vote won for incorporation. However, my grandfather came in last for the council election and went back to I think, being a real estate, in the real estate business. I wanted to add a little flavor to the Garavaglia report. Thanks to Heather Farquhar over at the History Museum, I was able to spend with Bill even several hours going through the newspaper stacks they have in the basement. The hall was constructed by the members who were volunteers and all World War I veterans. It cost less than $2,000 to build. And they immediately started meeting at the hall and opened it up for community events. They had movie nights open to the public. They had whist card games there every weekend. As World War II broke out, they got involved by setting up the kitchen. The post kitchen became one of the 3 emergency kitchens in the area for the local canteen corps. Guy Schaup held special Red Cross meetings there. The Army would be there holding public meetings about home defense. And at the same time, the Legionnaires continued to have dances and their card games, and at night they would have to put black drapes over the windows to comply with all the blackout regulations. You know, there were still fear that Japan may come to the West Coast with aerial attacks. God, moving forward to the 60s, there was, I'm going to guess in the mid 60s, they started selling fireworks, and there was a fireworks stand out in front of the Legion Hall for years. It was a great fundraiser. I used to help, my dad ran the fireworks stand. My parents, we moved here in, I think 1956 when they joined the Legion. And I used to help them. I think I was probably in junior high, early high school years, working in the fireworks stand. And it was there until the fireworks were outlawed. We were there when the White Cliff Market burned down. There's a photo in their report of the shows the White Cliff tent in front of the hall, and there's 2 women standing near the sidewalk. One was my grandmother and another friend of the family. God, what else? We started having our crab feeds. My parents started the crab feed, I think in 1969, back when crab was about 25 cents a pound. That crab feed continues till today. My wife and I, Cindy, kind of took it over from my parents, I don't know, early 2000s maybe. But it's, you know, continued all these years. If you've heard of Boys State and Girls State, the Post started sponsoring applicants from the high schools at the very beginning in 1940, and that continues until today, where we send students from Los Altos High, Mountain View High, St. Francis High, even Gun High School, Palo Alto High School, the Boys State and Girls State. And you know, we're continuing now monthly having dinners for the veterans, getting them out of the house. We still have a lot of World War II vets that attend the meetings that are elderly. We celebrated our December meeting. One of our members was 107 at Thanksgiving, still coming to our meetings.
Oh, my goodness.
And you might have heard about Irv Martin's passing.
India 6, Echo
Which
Uniform
was,
Golf, checking in.
December 4th. He was at our December 1st meeting. And insisting that his daughter, who was handling his financial affairs, make sure his daughter would write the annual check for Toys for Tots. He always added a couple $100 to our Toys for Tots drive. He passed just a few days later, and the family sent us a check for $1,000 for Toys for Tots in his memory. So, and maybe to kind of answer a couple of the questions, you know, we have been approached by the developers that want that section of First Street from Whitney, I think, down to Main Street. There's a proposal to put a building right at Whitney and First Street, and the same developers, and they've twice now have offered us a substantial amount of money to get that property, but we're resisting because, you know, we want to keep that there just to honor all the veterans, and especially the World War I veterans that put the building up, and keep it just like it is. And we essentially turned down the offers. Yeah, and we think it's very important, and we want to remain as it is. You mentioned the maintenance of the building. Our biggest concern right now is we need to replace the roof. If you view it from the street, you can see where the roof is sagging. We had some construction companies and architects inspect the building. And let me back up a little to 1995. There was, I think, an inspection, and it was after the Loma Prieta earthquake, and there was a lot of concern for buildings at that point, whether or not they would withstand another earthquake. And we have one listing wall, and so they got a permit and installed some cables that run on the inside of the building from wall to wall, holding up that one wall. And when a few years ago, we had some designers and architects and various companies inspect the roof, and found it looked like maybe the World War I vets didn't do quite the correct job as they were building the roof, and it was set up to where it spreads a little bit. And so that's what's going to be, we want to raise funds, and hopefully this will give us the opportunity to grants, because it's going to be a substantial cost, somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to replace the roof in that structure. And we'll keep it, you know, in the exact shape it is right now. It just make repairs and then put on a new roof. I think I'll close out there. Hopefully Bill's able to get in.
Bill, can you speak?
Still not coming through.
No, we
His
can't
phone-
hear you.
His phone looks like it is muted. John, can you unmute him, his phone?
No, it looks like it's unmuted. I can.
Is it like *9 or something to unmute on a phone?
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
there we
Okay,
go.
great. Okay. So I was very pleased with Sean's presentation. And I've been interested in this topic for about 4 years now, when I realized as a commander that there were many people that wanted to purchase our parcel. And we, from day one, wanted to preserve this for the community. You know that 5 to 7 days every week, our hall is being used by various groups in Los Altos. There's dog training, Zumba, there's dancing, there are bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, there's weddings, Hispanic weddings that take place there. And it really is a gathering place for our community. It has the right size in the hall to appeal to people in groups, and it's used quite frequently. So I looked into this, and we presented a request to the city council maybe 3 years ago, and the council persons were very interested. And I must tell you, when I left, I spoke there, and when I left, I was about 20 feet from my car, and I hear footsteps running toward me. So I turned around, and this gentleman came up to me, and he said, "Sir, I'd like to congratulate you. Finally, someone wants to preserve something in Los Altos." So I took that as a compliment. And it just so happened that this last weekend, I was in the front of the building trying to get rid of the weeds that in the sidewalks, slats of the sidewalk. I was working there. And while I was there, two pedestrians about 10 minutes apart, were walking down from San Antonio to Main Street. When you make that walk from San Antonio to Main Street, on the first corner, I think there's a large four-story structure. Then on the left, there's another four-story structure. And then I think there's another one, a second one on the left, another four-story structure. Then there's one on the right. Then there are two under construction, 4 stories. And then both corners of Whitney and First are proposing constructing 4-story structures. And then you get to ours. So there I am on a Saturday afternoon, and someone comes up to the little sign. Ken Newman placed the notice of this meeting in front of our building. So the first person that came by said, "Gee, finally someone is preserving something in Los Altos." And I said, "Thank you, and we'd like to preserve our structure." And he walked on toward Main Street. 10 minutes later, another person walks by, stops and reads the notice, and finally says, "Boy, I really like this notice better than all the other notices of construction I saw earlier." So we want the community to have this for generations to come. The last thing we want is money. But people are bidding, and we don't want that. We're into preserving.
That's great.
I'm done. Thank you.
That's great.
Well, you came to the right committee. We like preserving things too.
Cindy's trying to get in, I think. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was just waiting to be called.
There you go.
This is a pretty informal meeting. Thank you so much. I'm Cindy Newman, and I'm actually a resident of Mountain View, and I'm married to the finance officer, Ken Newman. I've had the pleasure to be the secretary and also the chief crab feed cook over the past 20 years. We're now more than 50 years in providing this annual crab feed. We took it over from Ken's parents as they aged. And I swore I would stop doing it at 50 years total, and we're still going. And the reason I mentioned the crab feed is it's not a fundraiser. We set the price so that we can get the vets to come out of their homes and come to an event and socialize with each other, because a lot of them, no matter their age, the current conflict or 107-year-old members, they need to get out of the house. And so we make it affordable, and it's not a public thing where we're trying to make a fundraiser with auctions and all this. But now it's different. We have to raise money for that roof, and that will be great. Our rentals, our events, our weddings, our funerals are affordable for the common person. And that's really hard in this valley. So they get a place to be too. And I cannot believe the depth of feeling that I've experienced as a relative newcomer to this post, the depth of feeling by the veterans in this post. We brought the developer's proposal to the vets not once, but twice, and they just flatly said no. Their concern was the ham radio antenna, because we have always been prepared for a disaster, and we are now working with Ann Heppenstall to be a neighborhood emergency network node pilot. So we've been meeting about every 2 or 3 weeks with Ann to see what else is it that we need to do. Let's talk now about how we can serve the community as a neighborhood point, not a shelter, but a neighborhood point for information and referral resources in the event of disaster, not just the usual duck and cover earthquake preparedness that I've heard about my entire lifetime, but the new threat, the wildfires. And with the forestation that we have in Los Altos, it's a real possibility that we will have employees stuck in the downtown business district that have been pushed out by their chain stores, lock the doors, and now where are they going to go? How are they going to get home in a smoke event? So we're working on that. Let me see if there's anything else to add. So that's what we're working on. And we're going back to the depth of feeling. As we've been doing this, and we brought it to the vets, they turned it down twice. I had no idea how connected they were to that building, because this was built by the hands of vets that returned from World War I. And there is such a society there that I never understood before until I tried to push it this past year. The other thing was citizens. I cannot believe how I've run into people that come to the hall to meet with me for something, and they say, my daughter went to the dance classes here. We still have the original ballet bars, and they're still in good shape. So this building has stood the test of time, being built by vets, not vets that didn't know what they were doing, but vets that may have done construction in their time. So there's a few tweaks that need to be made. It's solid, but we are thrilled to start being a neighborhood emergency network center as a node. It's called a node. As soon as we can get some things going. So everything's happening at once: maintenance, repair, and this application. Thank you very much.
Okay, are there further people that would like to quickly comment?
Is that you, David?
In the background?
Yes.
Yeah. I have some very precocious little girls running around here, so they're definitely opinionated. I hate losing arguments to 6-year-olds. Anyway, well, thank you all for that presentation. I thought it was wonderful, and it gives me a renewed sense of your vision for the building, and so I'm grateful for your time and your participation. I have to say, this past week I went by it, and I I took a book out of the little library out in front, and I read the whole thing. It was about World War II and some and kind of the start of people that were dropped behind enemy lines into France. So I need to either return that or pass it on, but it was just great. So I appreciated that. Any questions from the members of the committee, or any comments from the members of the committee?
Well, I didn't know that much that went on in there, so I'm very impressed. And I think you should make more people aware, and maybe, I know you'll need the money whether you're trying to raise it or not. Is it a .org or something? When you give money to it, it can be tax-free or not?
Can someone from, yeah, thank you, Ken.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we are the Post is registered as a 519 C3 organization, which is similar to a 501c3, and it is tax deductible. We've also set up a actual 501c3 for our fundraising, called Los Altos American Legion Charities, which would enable corporations to donate funds, because they generally typically require 501c3s if they're going to be donating funds. So yeah, you can just mail us checks to 347 First Street.
Oh, it sounds to me like we all should in Los Altos. It's a great place.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we're something we didn't mention. We're currently have a permit working its way through the building department. We're remodeling the club room, which is the smaller space that was added to the back of the building in 1948, and it's still. I remember when Bill joined the Post, he started talking about us remodeling that room year after year, because it still is really like in the I think the last time it was remodeled was 1954. So it's a pretty old place. And so we're putting in a new bar and doing some work in the ceiling, putting in some better lighting, things like that, just to kind of make it a more attractive room for us and for rentals. People use. So
All right.
Losing the question now, but
that's okay. No,
that's once we get the new bar and that room set up, we are going to have some sort of an open house and kind of invite people that have money to come and have a beer with us.
Sounds good.
And start some actual fundraising.
Commissioner Bartlett, any question or comment?
I just wanted to add my thanks to the speakers tonight. You know, there's things I learned about the building, its past, and also the individuals who, you know, made written comments through Sean to us.
Yes.
I'm struck by the whole context of the building I didn't know about. Built by World War I veterans, you know, at the time in the 40s, and of course there's one of those guys left living. And our World War II vets are getting pretty thin as well.
Yeah.
So I think you know, many of the letters, comments received from the public were, you know, in that vein of honoring, you know, the chain, and we have this sort of treasure, this little missing treasure that, you know, sits there on First Street. So I just don't. You know, I thank all the comments that have been made, and I learned a lot this evening. Thank you.
I want to voice my appreciation as well. Thank you very much. It's very informative and impressive.
Commissioner Page, do you have a question or a thought?
Yes, I do. I just want to let you know that, my family, or actually my wife's family, has been in this area since the early 50s. And I remember stories hearing from my wife that she took dance lessons at the hall, and we had a dog that went through dog training at the hall. So, and I've actually, the church I went to had a concert there, and I got to sing at the hall. So, for me, there's a lot of family togetherness that has happened there. And it's so important that we remember as a town that the building that we're keeping, there's a lot of family that goes on with that. It doesn't have to be a 4-story building to bring in more money. You need some place that people can go and gather and be with one another and grow, because that's how a community grows, is to bring the community together. And I think that hall is a perfect place to do that. And I'm very much supportive of that.
Commissioner Lang, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I would just applaud what Kirk just said. I thought that really captured it very nicely. I've also been at some good events there. Obviously the key question here will be not just getting this designation, but also doing whatever we can to support you in your fundraising activities. I hope you have some ideas for some grant places. We know from some other things it's not always easy to come by money. Yeah. So that'll be a challenge, but hopefully designation would help with those applications and really underline how important the building is to our community. So anything we can do to help with that, I'm all for.
Well, okay, then I would entertain a motion to forward our recommendation to City Council that we would.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
if you could close, you've never closed public comment, and then
Sorry.
if you want to start commission discussion, and then if there's no commission discussion, then you could do your motion after that.
Okay, so why don't we formally close the public comments? Are there any further comments or questions from the committee? All right, then why don't we move a motion to approve, to recommend our approval to City Council that 347 First Street be a historic landmark.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair Moore, who was the first? Who made the motion?
Was Commissioner Moore.
I think
Commissioner
Chair
Moore.
Moore did. Do you want, does it need to be a commissioner?
Well,
Yes.
no, I said it, then someone said so moved. So I don't know who said so moved.
I think I heard Commissioner Horn make the motion and Commissioner Page make a second. That's what I heard.
Okay, good.
Make a motion. Okay.
That will work. Okay. Anything else we need to do on that?
Sean, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Can we have a roll call vote, please? 1 second. Commissioner or Vice Chair Horn?
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Trapnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Page?
Aye.
Commissioner Lang?
Aye.
Chair Moore?
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
There we go. Yay. Thank you very much for your participation and your time. we look forward to doing what we can to help you meet your goals for that building. We're excited about your project, and please let us know how we can help.
Good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I'd like to acknowledge our ham radio operator, Jack Heidmiller, in the audience.
Yeah.
He's our antenna guy, and he's ready to rock and roll in an emergency. Thank you all.
All right, good.
What's
I
next?
think now we have an update on Halsey House. Is that correct?
1 second. I think it's a very short update. As the commissioners are aware, the city council did authorize mothballing of the Halsey House. They have, sorry. So they have authorized mothballing of the historic structure, and so once we have additional information in regards to when that's initiated, we'll make sure to advise you at the future meeting.
Why?
Just so you're aware of when it's initiated, so that since you're the historical commission and it is historic property, we will advise you of that. I'm sorry, 1 second, sir.
I don't get it.
What's next on the agenda?
The Margaret Thompson essay contest.
Oops.
The difficulty of home, I'm sorry. So once
Wait until you have a teenager.
So once they initiate the mothballing of the structure, and we will advise the commission so that they're aware of the status of the mothballing of it. The Historical Commission was an important advocate in regards to the preservation of the Halsey House, and important advocate in regards to evaluating the alternatives and making recommendations to council. And so staff just wants to keep you updated on the next steps as those move along. So once we have that information from the Engineering Services Department, we will make sure to provide that update at that point.
Okay, can we get an update then on the Margaret Thompson essay contest?
Hi, good evening. My name is Naz Healy. I'm an associate planner with the City of Los Altos, and I will be providing the update on the essay contest. So the Los Altos History Museum has kicked off the Margaret Thompson Essay Contest, which is for children in grades 3 to 6. And the theme this year centers around Anna Knapp Fitz, who grew up on a farm in Los Altos in the 1920s. And she created artwork featuring people and scenes that captured everyday life in the Santa Clara Valley during that time. So her artwork is currently on display at the Los Altos History Museum until February 6th. The deadline for student submissions is March 4th, and prizes will be awarded in May. If there are any commissioners that are interested in participating in the judging, please contact me, and the judging would occur in March or April. And finally, information about the contest, including detailed instructions, has been posted on the Historical Commission's website, as well as the History Museum's website. Emails were sent out to all elementary or middle schools, and staff is working on getting an announcement in the town crier, and as well as the city's social media page. Thank you.
And I think the next on the agenda is the monthly staff report.
So I don't have a staff report this month. I will advise the chair that this will be my last meeting as a liaison. Associate planners Naz Healy and Associate Planner Jia Lu will be taking over as joint liaisons for you. I will still assist in reviewing some of the reports or assisting them on some of the reports, since I've been being the liaison for the last 7 years, I believe. But next month, both Ja and Naz will be working with you, Chair Moore, and coordinating the agendas and future agenda items.
And Sean has told us when we're feeling sorry for ourselves and missing him, we are always welcome to come in his office and drink the soda out of his little refrigerator and print stuff off his printer. So we are very welcome in his office. It was what I thought I heard when we talked. Okay, well, we're looking forward to Naz and Ja. I'm sorry, how do you say her name?
That is correct. It's Ja.
Yeah, okay, Naz and Ja, okay.
Chair, may I make a comment?
Sure, thank you, Mayor.
So good evening, and I just wanted to jump in here and say a couple of things. One is to thank Sean for his long service to this commission, and no, he doesn't get away scot-free. I'm sure we're going to be drawing on his expertise, as will the staff. Welcome to Naz and to Ja, and to let you all know that for better or worse, I will be your commission. I should turn my video on. I will be your commission liaison for this year. And so there'll be changes of all sorts coming up, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're blessed to have you. Thank you. Are there any commissioners' reports or comments? Okay. Are there potential future items coming up that we need to start thinking about?
To the chair, at the last meeting, Commissioner Page talked about communicating with Dr. Elizabeth Ward with the History Museum regarding potentially the addition of new trees to the historic inventory. So I just wanted, staff is willing to assist with that. If he would just reach out to either liaison Naz or Ja, and they could coordinate with him on moving that forward.
And Sean, I'm going to mention too that with some changes in state law that make it a greater responsibility of staff to make determinations and do what's called ministerial approval of certain kinds of projects, that's probably going to compel a little bit of revision to how we handle properties that not so much that are already on the HRI, but that might be qualified for the HRI. So you can look for some updates from staff coming, I think, in the next few months as we look at that procedure and whether there's anything we need to clean up or add to that procedure and what involvement we might ask for from this commission about that process.
Okay.
Do you want to mention anything that we do have a subcommittee?
I mean, if it's not on that, we can place on a future agenda if you would like, a subcommittee report if you'd like. We can add that to the future agenda. It's currently not on the agenda. I'm sorry. But we, if Mayor Ennender is not aware, there was a subcommittee that was established in regards to historic resource inventory update. They did have a meeting today. Sorry to say it's not currently on the agenda as an item, as an informational item, or as a discussion item, but we can make sure that it's added to all future agenda items, and we can work with Naz and Ja to make sure it's added so that you can provide reports every month.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I would, I think at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of adjournment?
Yay, aye.
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 All opposed?
Congratulations on your elevation, sir.
Oh my heavens! So I'm overwhelmed with panic, but I'll